is there, okay, Alderman Conrad started to say and then we did a timeout, so now we'll go back into, regulation play here.
I think part of the reason we have that many part-time people is because sometimes for big events, if you need 4 or 5 extra people, not all your part-timers are always available. That's why there is that.
It's hard to find part-time help,
It's hard to keep
I don't-
part-time.
On the county level, we have a hard time finding part-time deputies.
You must not be paying enough then.
Come to Arcadia. Or you're paying too much.
Who are the full-time ones?
We've got Diane Anderson, who's the police chief, we've got Officer Chris Haynes, we've got Officer, James Winark, and we've got Officer John Shellhar.
Them 2 that he mentioned last are always night guys. So
So was that 2004, Rob, right, Quinn, was that in 2014 and we had 5 full-time officers plus a detective?
No,
Or was that in 2013?
we've never had 5 full-time officers plus a detective. The most we've had for full-time are 5, including the investigator position.
Well, I thought when Mr. Ganshaw, that would have been 5 and,
Negative. Always been four full-timers plus the chief, and one of the full-timers included the investigator position.
but was that as recent, most recent as 2014? Would that have been in 2014?
That would have,
I'm just trying to,
in the 50s, he worked.
no. No, he,
the reason I ask is in 2014, between the salary and overtime, you were at 258,000, and this year you'd be at 245, so it's
yeah, we had a disciplinary issue where an officer was placed on administrative leave, and that's all I'm saying about that situation. So,
understandable.
again, when you take a look at the,
That's why I was just wondering when, I understand the issue, I was just wondering what was the time frame?
he last served in September of 2013, he went on administrative leave, he went on family medical leave, and, or no, I'm sorry, it was family medical leave first, and then paid administrative leave, and I believe he was done in the first pay period of May of 2014. May
The next
2nd.
question is when the county, now that we don't have a detective and the county comes in and does an investigation, do you know what the cost of that is? Or do they charge it back, or is that just in-kind services? Because if so, I mean, we're all taxpayers in the county anyway, we're already paying for the detective they have.
I agree. Say that again, I didn't hear you.
I mean,
I
when we had
heard all
a
of it.
detective, when
I
we
heard
had a
all of it
detective,
except we already pay,
we're already paying the detectives for Trumbull County that are already doing services. So what I was wondering is, are they charging the city back to do those services? Or is that like a mutual aid agreement, is my question? Like, if there's a death investigation or something like that, are they charging the city?
I don't think so, Rob.
Okay.
I think.
I didn't think we were, I mean, I serve in law enforcement, but I wasn't for sure if we were.
I think the only bills that we got, outside from, our wages, for like the last death one that not the recent one from last month, but, or the beginning of this month, but the one from, up behind the armory a year and a half ago or something like that, we got billed for, a group that had to come in and clean up they did like a cleanup
Service
kits
row?
for the blood and, bodily fluid kind of a cleanup thing. But otherwise, I think it was just mutual aid.
Okay.
I think it was 2015. Anything else on the police department budget? Hearing none, we'll move to the library budget. Library gets an annual allocation from the city. In 2013, I believe it was $110,000, and it was up to $125,000. And then they take that allocation and put it with their other revenue sources and administer and approve their own budget.
A question here.
Yes.
this is 3 years in a row that it's been $125,000. Would you consider raising that sum since they have an unbelievable amount of people, and there's so many people in there, just the wear and tear, the safety, I'm just wondering, a little more should be put in that budget.
I can see how at first glance you might say that after they had their $110,000 allocation in 2013, they got a 13.63% increase in 1 year. Where if you flip back to the police department, you actually see a decrease of $13,000 over 1 year because departments have been asked to keep overtime in check to do the best they can with their budget as far as making sure that they have all their needs met. And you know, to have a 13.63% increase in 1 year, I think that was a good sized jump, and it allowed them to level off. They've also seen decreases in health insurance costs this year, so I think $125,000 is a real fair amount.
This is maybe another issue, but who decides about people getting overtime? There seems to be some discrepancy.
Are we talking about the issue that you and I and the library board had discussed?
No.
Okay, I was just asking. I don't think that there's discrepancy. I think that with the new policy manual, there are issues that have come up where change needs to be taken a look at. And obviously, if something happens, bless you, whoever that was, bless you, Pat. If overtime is needed, you know, we get it, but overtime should be the exception, especially in the library. It's not the police department where they've got accidents or, you know, water being bursts in the middle of January. So I think that we just need to make sure that we're doing a good job of administering the schedule and minimizing the overtime.
So who does approve overtime?
Department heads, and then that comes to the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And most of the department heads do a great job of saying, hey, we're gonna be having overtime. If something's going on with weather related, Raleigh calls up. Angela's had overtime issues in the past, whether it's been court or, you know, she'll have an election and a council meeting the same week. Some of the departments do a great job. Diana's done a great job. Other departments, they notify the overtime when the time card comes in, including this department. Next we have the 2000.
I just had a quick question, and we approved the county board budget, last Monday, and the county gives X amount of dollars to different library funds. By state statute, we have to give 70% of, and I forget how that formula works as far as, maybe Mrs. Fetch isn't here, she could explain it a little bit more, but maybe you do, Jim.
I think in Buffalo County's budget, we had like $114,000 to Winding Rivers Library Services out of La Crosse. There was another one out of Eau Claire. But my question for the council is your budget for the library services here come partly from Winding Rivers, or do we pay to Winding Rivers for the services they offer to the Arcadia kids? Because we're paying on a per capita basis for Buffalo County citizens coming over to the library here.
Winding River does give the city of Arcadia a grant. It's not a whole lot, in the $3,000 or $4,000 range, isn't it? Somewhere around there, 3,800, something like that.
There's a resource grant. that
But
comes
that's
from Winding
offset
Rivers.
almost entirely by our dues and participation in the Winding Rivers library service. So Buffalo County and Trumbull County each have an allocation, like Rob said, that goes directly to the library board.
We upped ours from 70% as the minimum was 70%, allowed by state statute. Members of the group from Trumbull County obviously wanted 100,000. It wasn't not able to happen, but they did go up to 85%. So that be reflected in this budget, or as far as, so it's going to be actually more than this 125, or is this reflective of that going off 70%?
This is reflective of a City of Arcadia contribution to their overall budget, and then they get the rest of their resources from other entities such as Buffalo and Trumbull County.
And if I may add, Buffalo County, I know I sat on the library board before, before Alderman Colstead took over. And it was, at use is the way Buffalo County paid us, per
Circulation.
circulation. And, some years, we had a lot more circulation than others.
I wanna say it was like 33,000 this last year.
Right.
And how they figured that
It was
number
like
out.
if there was 10 magazines rented, or I shouldn't say, or borrowed by Buffalo County residents, we, as a city library, got reimbursed from Buffalo County, and don't ask me how much that was, but that's how that worked.
Anyway, what I'm saying is there's gonna be a 15% increase coming from Trumbull County from last year, in 2015 to 2016.
Okay, I think that will help meet the needs that this question.
That's why I didn't know if that comes out of here, that would reduce that, or that's above and beyond that.
That's above and beyond.
And just so everybody knows, the library board has not submitted their budget for approval yet. So that'll be coming to the city council.
Pardon me?
The library board has not, given the city a copy of their budget for approval yet.
The budget meeting is tomorrow evening.
That's usually done in August or September, isn't it? Because we've always gotten that before the budget hearing. All right, we've got the 2016 street department budget.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I noticed, maybe Ralph can clarify this, so $950,000 projected year-end 2015, for 2015, and the budget was 487. Now, this was due to what again? I think you've been over it, but maybe the citizens would like to hear.
Yeah, again, just like what was brought up twice during the beginning of the meeting, when there are expenses or purchases such as a garbage truck or like the vehicle that Raleigh got this year with the vacuum truck, the water tank, and the dump box. Purchases like that, while they're reflected in here as an expense, this does not show the reallocations and transfers of funds that come from those capital outlay accounts to cover those. But thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
One thing that you'll see as an addition in this year's budget, the yellow box down in the lower left-hand corner. And those three projects are written in here specifically. Those are a couple of projects that we've been talking about, and it was put in here for planning purposes and for transparency as far as where those funds are going. Raleigh's gonna be doing about 30,000 or less in seal coating projects. We have the capital outlay project of Green Bay Avenue and the parking lot and the court behind there, as well as the North Simpson project, which is from Main Street to its north dead end.
Hey, where's the water and sewer department on here?
It's not. The water and sewer, the utility is a standalone enterprise fund. Each one of them are. They're independent and not accountable nor contributory to the general fund, which is its own fund. So electric, water, and sewer are independent and governed by the utility commission. Yes, Sean?
I got a question. I don't know, just skimming through the whole thing, and I was just looking for an area here where you're gonna have a handicap accessible expense. Do you budget that somewhere else? Does it come from somewhere else?
The handicap accessible expenses that we have, you will see have been budgeted in our sidewalk budget, which you'll see second from the bottom on page 16. I'm glad you brought that up, Sean, because that's something that ever since I was a little guy and rode my bike delivering newspapers, I've always thought that the end of each sidewalk should be handicap accessible, and we've done a great job. We've only got one section of sidewalk left to make handicap accessible, but we do take it out of the sidewalk budget.
But what do you do about general buildings?
That's not part of this budget. We don't have consensus on what the scope of the project for a replacement of any of the non-accessible city buildings yet.
Okay.
Question?
Yes.
I beat Rob, do you want to go first?
Go ahead, Mr. Fetch.
On the, what's the street up that comes right off by, the Simpson? Where the beauty shop is there? Simpson, okay, now straight across from that, what's the name of that street that goes straight across there?
North Simpson. It's North Simpson Street, and that's what you'll see here in the yellow, that's the bottom one.
Oh, that's taking care of that, because that is a, yeah.
It needs some work.
Yeah.
There's some houses being redone back there, and there's more, and it's very congested.
Very.
Spent a couple hours there this weekend and took a look at a lot of those issues, and we've got a good plan for
Does that include curb and gutter and all
It
that?
includes some 6-inch curb and gutter, the L-shaped, it includes some drive-over curb and gutter, some localized storm drainage issues, the new utilities as well as the new hot mix.
Thank you.
And why I say some drive-over and some full curb, some of the folks don't want the full curb, but along some of the properties, I did let them know that we had to do the full curb in front of like the light pole, just in case a car comes through, they hit the curb rather than the pole. So there's a couple of areas where the landowner has asked for drive-over curb. Sometimes they have a trailer with a four-wheeler, sometimes they haul wood in, sometimes, whatever they've got going on. So we've always left that up to the landowner on what they want, and so we'll see a combination of the 6-inch and the drive-over there. Yes.
Rob Wright, my question, the street department budget, last week or the week before, I forget now, the landfill meeting we were at, you had read off some numbers about the monitoring of the wells out there. I would say on average, maybe what, were they $35,000 per year?
Okay.
Correct? I mean, some were, years were 20,000, some were 50-some thousand. I was wondering where that was put in this budget, number one. Number two, if we no longer have ownership of it, why are we still having closure costs of $35,000? If we no longer own it, why do we have utilities expenses and just regular landfill expenses?
Okay, first one is, you will find that on page 17 under landfill. Your second question, as far as the closure costs, I would have to refer back to the agreement that is there with Green Alliance, but because the city of Arcadia was the principal responsible party, even though the transfer of that land did go to Green Alliance Holdings, Green Alliance of Wisconsin, that did not absolve the city of Arcadia of their principal responsible party responsibility. The utility expenses have been there because at least until recently, on Saturdays, I think is it every other Saturday, Riley?
Every other. $35 a month it costs us for electricity out there.
They do take in different things at the landfill, and then once they're taken in there, then they're shipped off to wherever they're going. I don't have specifics on that. Riley would be able to detail that out.
Ronnie's metal recycling.
My main question is that $35,000, is that for the monitoring of the wells?
Yes. And like I had indicated in the joint meeting with the township, since 1995 closure, I think it was 1995, we've spent upwards of $1.2 million on costs out there, so certainly enough to raise your eyebrows.
And then again, same question, we're probably gonna have legal fees in 2016, I'm guessing?
It depends on how that whole issue moves forward.
I mean, either way, we're probably gonna have legal fees, whether it moves forward or not.
Possibly.
So by closing the landfill, it's still costing us $42,000 a year above, plus Green Alliance's cost of $18,000.
The gift that keeps on giving, we were given.
So we're paying them, but yet we're still paying for the monitoring of everything?
You're talking two different scopes of services here. The monitoring is through the engineers, where they're actually monitoring the levels of contamination and the risk. How are we doing it then?
I understand it's two different things, all I'm saying is, we're still paying for the monitoring, and we're paying them to do the assessment of $18,000 to assess their own property.
Anything else on the street department budget? Okay, we're gonna move on to emergency management, safety, and civil defense commission on page 18. One of the, actually the main reason for the significant drop in the budget from 2015 and prior to 2016, last night at the meeting, I was very pleased to announce, and several of you were here, but several of you were not, that we are in a three-phase partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to be able to take a look at the levee in the Trempealeau River, the levee that would go from Oak Street by the former Mark Finner property along Turton Creek and then all the way along the Trempealeau River down behind Ashley. So those flood wall expenditures and the like are not reflected in here because we are not going to have those costs. We've got obviously the stream gauge maintenance. We did budget $2,000 for desktop emergency exercises. I would invite and encourage the fire department and the ambulance and the police to do another desktop exercise like we did with the golden pump thing a couple of years ago. We budget for that annually, and I think they're a great training exercise, and we should do those more often. We budgeted $5,000 for bank restoration. Raleigh's been doing some great work along the Trempealeau River there, but a lot of those, as far as the flood wall expenditures and stuff, are not needed in this budget, so that's a significant decrease, and that's why it's at $30,500.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask about the civil defense supplies and all that sort of thing? We have an emergency response team of some sort. I suppose that's what the civil defense supplies is, and that is it in for what? I mean, is that for tornadoes, is it for possibly flood? Well, certainly we're not gonna be bombed, hopefully. So, is sandbags in here someplace?
That's under the supplies and expenses,
Civil defense?
between civil defense and flood control. That's all under the emergency management, safety, and civil defense commission budget. And under the supplies and expenses, you're gonna find a variety of things like that that Raleigh does annually. They also do some mitigation expenses as far as like if there's any issues with the levee, if there's an area that eroded away, or if you have to come in and remove a tree and a tree stump, maybe a tree fell over, you know, there's things like that that come up. But
Is that monitoring system in this?
yeah, that's true.
Why did that go down?
We got a grant from the Department of the Interior.
Yes, that grant wasn't reflected when we budgeted last year. That was an ongoing every year, so our net cost every year is $7,500.
Okay.
Great question, Mr. Kimmel. On emergency management and safety, the stream gauge maintenance, every year, my recollection is they charge you $7,500 from the county, right? Why do we budget $11,375?
45 seconds ago, Angela preempted your question with the answer. Can you answer that again, Angela?
Yeah, last year, when we must have done the budget last fall, that number was pulled, but they give a grant or a match or an in-kind match that wasn't updated when we put those figures in.
But you'll see that 2015 projected year end is the 7,500 to us. Anything else on emergency management and civil defense budget? Yes.
Just a question on the civil defense, I guess that would, the sirens would be under that budget, correct? The civil defense sirens?
Yes.
Those are, some of them are quite old, and we've done some upgrading on them, like 2 years ago, and we had to put new radio receivers in that. That comes out of the, would that be under the flood control budget or the civil defense budget for maintenance and the city electric utility is amazing. had taken care of those when I asked them, they have it on a schedule now for maintenance and stuff since that guy came in there, but is there something we should look at for budgeting, just in case something goes down, or is there somewhere if something breaks, or, you know, I mean, cause some of them are quite a few years old.
Do you have some sort of submission or recommendation for us? And just for future reference, can that be provided to the city, say in August? Sure. Or September, so we can make that part of our thing?
Yeah, I just saw that last year you had a budget for it, but nothing this year.
Yeah, and we didn't put anything in there because those funds were in there and, you know, $1,702.94 remained
Right.
from the civil defense budget. So if there's something that needs to be looked at, how are we doing on time?
Question?
Yes,
As far as the fire or police, when they go through with sirens, they go through the stoplights down here. There's some kind of a mechanism that changes the lights so that you can get through. Is that part of this kind of, this is part of your budget or what? Or-
That was $15,000 lump sum the fire department paid for theirs.
and
That's the Lions Club paid for.
Or, but yeah, that's what,
Right,
that was
it's like
paid.
$875 per emitter or something like that, and every fire truck's got them, the squad cars have them, and all the ambulances have them.
Okay.
It was, yeah, it's an expensive deal, but the DOT maintains the receivers on their end.
So what about us having some money in there to make sure that if something goes wrong with our vehicles and all that sort of thing?
If I'm not speaking out of turn, I think that's up to each department
Oh,
to maintain their own